beneath layers of earth. These buried objects demonstrate a cultural practice centered around ritual, memory, and symbolic offerings to the earth. As time passed, their cities declined, absorbed into jungles and river plains. But the colossal heads remained, watching the land silently, surviving storms and floods. These heads feel like guardians of forgotten stories, faces carved in stone, staring forward with a calm presence long after their makers disappeared. All these civilizations, Göbekli Tepe, the Minoans, Nabta Playa, the Olmecs, reveal the same truth from different landscapes. Humanity has always been dreaming, building, observing, and creating in ways that defy simple explanation. Their stories drift through time like soft echoes, waiting for anyone willing to listen.
Some civilizations are remembered through their stone monuments, others through their writing, and a few only through faint impressions left in the earth. But there are also cultures that drift at the edges of historical certainty. Civilizations mentioned in old travel records, described in fragments, or hinted at through trade goods found far from their origins. These cultures feel like shadows of once living worlds, existing somewhere between recorded history and whispered memory. One such place is the Kingdom of Punt, known mostly through ancient Egyptian inscriptions. The Egyptians called it the Land of Gods, a place of incense trees, fragrant resins, gold, exotic animals, and gentle coastal settlements. They sailed there across the Red Sea, returning with treasures that were considered sacred. But what makes Punt special is not its wealth. It is the mystery surrounding its location. For thousands of years, scholars have debated where Punt truly was. Some place it near modern-day Somalia, others in Eritrea, Sudan, or southern Arabia. The absence of solid ruins makes Punt feel like a drifting dream, a place that once existed vividly in the minds of ancient people but now lives only in faint records. Egyptian art shows scenes of Punt, houses built on stilts, trees heavy with aromatic sap, ships laden with goods, and even images of the Queen of Punt, whose distinctive appearance is carved with attentive detail. These scenes suggest real encounters, real trades, real journeys. Yet the land itself has never been discovered. If remnants do exist, they are buried beneath shifting sand, overgrown by thorn forests, or submerged under coastal waters. It is as if Punt slipped quietly, leaving behind only the fragrance of the incense it once exported. Traveling north across continents, another lost land stretches beneath the cold waters around Britain, Doggerland. Thousands of years ago, the North Sea did not exist in its current form. Instead, there was an enormous landmass connecting Britain to mainland Europe, filled with rivers, lakes, forests, and wide grasslands. People hunted, fished, and lived across this land, moving between regions that are today deep underwater. As the last ice age ended and sea levels rose, Doggerland slowly disappeared. Villages, hunting grounds, and entire ecosystems were swallowed by the expanding sea. Over generations, the land narrowed into small islands and then vanished entirely. Now, trawler nets sometimes pull up ancient tools, bones of extinct animals, carved wooden spears, and fragments of human settlements from the seafloor. These objects come from a world that existed peacefully for thousands of years. A world with no writing, no monumental architecture, but a fully developed human culture. Imagine a landscape of ancient rivers and green plains now invisible beneath waves that reflect passing clouds. Doggerland is not mythical, it is entirely real, yet hidden. It is a reminder that entire countries can disappear without leaving ruins above the surface. On the opposite end of the world, the Khmer Empire once flourished in Southeast Asia, creating vast cities that blended into the jungle. Their most famous site, Angkor, stretches across hundreds of square kilometers, an enormous network of temples, reservoirs, canals, causeways, and stone carvings. But the Khmer Empire extended far beyond Angkor itself. Cities, suburbs, and agricultural systems were connected through channels and reservoirs on a scale that rivals modern infrastructure. Many of these structures remained hidden beneath the jungle until recent aerial surveys revealed them. The civilization collapsed gradually, affected by climate changes, shifting water resources, and political transitions. When people left, the jungle moved in quickly. Roots grew between stones, leaves collected in courtyards, and vines wrapped around sculptures that once received offerings. The jungle protects as much as it hides. Many temples survived precisely because the forest shielded them from wind and rain. Stepping into these ruins now feels like entering a place partially reclaimed by nature and partially preserved by it. Across the oceans in the Andean region, the Wari civilization shaped mountain landscapes with intricate planning long before the rise of the Inca. Their cities were built with rectangular blocks, efficient water systems, and road networks so advanced that later empires adopted them. The Wari practiced terrace farming, creating layered mountainsides that allowed crops to thrive. They crafted textiles with elaborate geometric patterns dyed in vivid colors that still survive in fragments today. But the Wari culture did not leave enormous pyramids or gigantic carvings. Their power rested in organization, architecture, and community systems rather than more hidden under later construction. Excavations reveal courtyards, storage buildings, and ceremonial structures that hint at a society that valued order, planning, and harmony with the land. The Wari world did not vanish suddenly. It faded gently into the cultures that followed, leaving behind soft traces rather than dramatic ruins. Further north, the Hohokam people of the American Southwest created vast canal systems that turned arid desert into fertile farmland. These canals, some stretching for miles, were engineered with careful gradients to ensure steady water flow. They built villages and ceremonial platforms, crafting pottery with geometric red and buff designs. Their ball courts and plazas show a culture engaged in communal gatherings and rituals. When climate patterns shifted and water became unpredictable, many settlements were gradually abandoned. The structures eroded into the desert and sand covered what remained. But even now, the foundations of canals and villages can still be traced beneath the soil. The Hohokam legacy lives in these silent outlines, faint but enduring reminders of communities that worked with the land rather than against it. Across the Pacific, the Lapita culture spread across thousands of miles of ocean, settling islands from Papua New Guinea to Tonga and Samoa. They were expert navigators, moving through open waters guided by stars, currents, and deep knowledge of ocean patterns. Their pottery, decorated with intricate dentate stamping, appears across distant islands, connecting them through shared design and technique. The Lapita people likely used sophisticated mental maps to navigate, long before compasses or written charts. Their settlements were often temporary, built along coasts that later eroded or became submerged. Many Lapita sites lie beneath sand, coral, or shallow waters. Their legacy survives in pottery shards, tools, and genetic traces in modern island populations. They represent one of the most expansive, quiet migrations in human history. A spread of families, stories, and traditions carried by canoes across vast seas. All these cultures, Punt, Doggerland, the Khmer, the Wari, the Hohokam, and the Lapita, show how civilizations can rise, flourish, and fade in ways that differ from the familiar narratives of wars and empires. Some left art, others left infrastructure, and some left only faint impressions. Yet each contributes to the vast, layered story of humanity, a story made of places that still whisper through ruined stones, shifting sands, underwater plains, and silent jungles. They remind us that the world contained countless human experiences, each living its own rhythm, each leaving traces that may one day reappear. And as we uncover these traces piece by piece, they become part of the collective memory we continue to build, quietly, slowly, and with a sense of wonder that stretches back to the very beginning.
The ancient world leaves behind more than ruins. It leaves behind questions that echo like soft footsteps fading into mist. In this section, the focus settles on how lost civilizations shaped their environments, responded to climate change, engineered survival strategies, and left behind traces that modern science can finally interpret. Each fragment of evidence reveals that ancient societies were far more adaptive, intelligent, and interconnected than once assumed. Their methods reflect a blend of practical ingenuity and cultural philosophy, finely tuned to landscapes that often appear harsh or uninhabitable today. The following exploration continues threading through this quiet realm of forgotten innovation, observing how people built, farmed, migrated, traded, and transformed their world long before recorded history began. Archaeological surveys repeatedly show that early civilizations rarely chose locations at random. Settlements were positioned with high environmental awareness. Some communities built on elevated terraces to avoid seasonal flooding, while others shaped their villages along natural wind corridors to cool structures during intensely hot seasons. Soil analysis from regions like the Indus Valley shows rotation patterns of crops that match modern sustainable farming principles. Ancient farmers balanced legumes, grains, and native edible plants not by accident, but through generations of accumulated observation. Their techniques avoided exhausting the soil, allowing continuous cultivation without artificial fertilizers. These findings challenge the misconception that ancient agriculture was primitive or inefficient. Researchers analyzing sediment layers from abandoned fields often discover evidence of controlled irrigation networks. Small canals distributed water evenly, prevent reduced water loss during dry months. Radiocarbon dating of these channels shows that some irrigation systems operated for centuries, designing with resilience rather than short-term convenience. Trade played an equally important role in shaping lost civilizations. Even societies separated by mountains or deserts participated in exchange networks reaching hundreds of kilometers. Obsidian trace analysis demonstrates that volcanic glass used in tools often traveled far from its source. These movements point not only to trade, but to shared knowledge about where high-quality resources were located. The spread of pottery styles offers additional clues. When a particular artistic motif appears across multiple regions, it indicates traveling farther than once believed, making it possible that early seafarers maintained steady trade or communication across islands and coastal routes long before major empires emerged. Climate shifts forced many civilizations to adapt or relocate. Pollen analysis from lake beds reveals gradual transitions from lush vegetation to arid landscapes in areas where ancient cities once thrived. Some societies how early humans read the land as if it were a constantly updating manual of survival. Architecture reflects another dimension of environmental intelligence. Many structures incorporated passive temperature control long before modern insulation or ventilation systems. Thick walls made from packed earth retained cool nighttime air, regulating indoor temperatures throughout the day. Some buildings used aligned doorways to channel breezes, while others employed multi-layered roofs that allowed hot air to escape. Sunlight positioning played a crucial role as well. Buildings often faced specific directions to maximize winter sunlight or minimize summer heat, depending on climate. These techniques demonstrate an intuitive understanding of physics shaped by lived experience. In regions prone to earthquakes, ancient architects developed construction methods that distributed stress across flexible joints. Wooden beams inserted between stone blocks allowed structures to sway during tremors instead of collapsing. These features appear in ruins across multiple continents, suggesting independent invention by communities exposed to similar natural threats. The recurrence of these ideas shows how necessity guided innovation, with practical solutions emerging wherever survival demanded creativity. Social structure also influenced resilience. Some civilizations relied on distributed leadership rather than centralized authority. Villages operated through cooperative labor systems where tasks like irrigation maintenance or food storage were shared responsibilities. This approach minimized the risk of collapse when a single leader or class weakened. It provided stability by embedding knowledge and accountability across the community.
Anthropological studies of surviving oral traditions indicate that decision-making often occurred in council meetings, where elders, farmers, craftsmen, and spiritual leaders contributed perspectives shaped by their experiences. These collective models of governments contrast with the hierarchical empires that often dominate historical narratives. Spiritual beliefs also played a subtle but powerful role in environmental management. Many societies viewed landscapes as living systems rather than exploitable resources. Rituals connected agricultural cycles to celestial patterns. Ceremonies honoring rivers or mountains reinforced cultural norms that discouraged overuse or pollution. While these practices were symbolic, they often produced tangible ecological benefits by guiding behavior. The blending of belief and sustainability shows that ancient societies did not separate practical knowledge from spiritual meaning. Instead, they treated the environment as a partner requiring balance and respect. When civilizations eventually declined, their decline rarely occurred for a single reason. Instead, multiple factors interacted: climate shifts, resource depletion, social conflict, disease, or migration. Scientists piece these elements together using layers of physical evidence: mineral residues on pottery, erosion marks on abandoned terraces, isotopes in ancient bones that reveal diet changes, or carbon signatures that indicate periods of intense burning or prolonged drought. Each layer adds a detail to the portrait of a society navigating simultaneous pressures. Despite collapse, these civilizations left behind durable legacies. Their engineering principles influence modern sustainability research. Their agricultural strategies inspire ecological restoration projects. Their migrations shaped genetic patterns still present today. Their symbolic art forms carry echoes of their worldview. Even in silence, their innovations survive, encoded in soil, stone, water, and the stories that science slowly reconstructs. The study of these forgotten societies reminds modern researchers that progress is not a straight line. Knowledge accumulates, disperses, and sometimes vanishes, waiting to be rediscovered. The evidence provides not only historical insight, but also guidance for the future. The adaptive strategies of ancient communities offer lessons for a world facing its own environmental challenges. Their quiet ingenuity continues to resonate, offering a gentle reminder that human creativity persists across time.
Ancient civilizations often expressed their understanding of the world through symbols carved into stone, painted onto pottery, or woven into textiles. These symbols are not merely decorative, they function like coded messages transmitting knowledge, beliefs, fears, and observations. When archaeologists decode these patterns, they gain access to the intellectual world of societies that have been silent for thousands of years. Some symbols represent celestial bodies, while others refer to agricultural cycles or spiritual narratives. The recurrence of these motifs across continents suggests that early humans shared a common desire to create meaning through visual language. Many lost civilizations used astronomical alignment in their structures, even without written records. Stones set in circular patterns often point towards sunrise on solstices or to the location of certain constellations. These alignments demonstrate a long-term observation of the sky, requiring consistency over generations. Researchers studying these formations discover that they functioned as calendars, guiding planting seasons, migration cycles, or ritual events. The accuracy of these alignments shows that ancient sky watchers understood patterns in celestial movement with surprising depth. In some areas, rock carvings show spirals, intersecting lines, and animal figures. These designs may represent maps or pathways used by travelers. Spiral patterns, for example, appear in regions where water sources are scarce. Scientists propose that the spiral center might indicate the location of a well or underground stream. Other carvings depict animals crucial to survival, suggesting reverence or symbolic guidance for hunting practices. When compared across different regions, similar motifs provide insight into how knowledge traveled between communities separated by long distances. Burial practices reveal additional layers of cultural meaning.
In some lost civilizations, bodies were positioned in fetal-like postures, symbolizing rebirth or return to the earth. Grave goods such as tools, jewelry, food, or pottery indicate beliefs about life beyond death. The arrangement of these items inside tombs reflects social hierarchy, family structure, and spiritual philosophy. When archaeologists uncover these burials, retain the integrity of remains. These methods were often tied to spiritual beliefs about the afterlife. The process required advanced knowledge of chemistry, even if ancient people did not describe it scientifically. They understood which plants slowed decay, which resins hardened surfaces, and which drying methods protected skin and bone. Modern laboratories analyzing these preserved remains discover compounds that resist bacteria and fungi, revealing a complex understanding of biological processes. Mythology formed another essential component of lost cultures. Stories about creation, natural phenomenon, and divine beings were passed orally from generation to generation. These myths often serve dual purposes, providing spiritual meaning and encoding practical knowledge. A tale about a serpent guarding a river might describe dangerous currents. A story about a mountain deity might refer to volcanic activity. By studying myths alongside geological and climatic evidence, researchers uncover subtle connections between narrative and environment. These ancient stories act as cultural memory banks, storing information that helped communities navigate their world. The construction techniques used by lost cultures also illustrate a blend of innovation and necessity. Massive stone blocks appear in temples, fortresses, and ceremonial platforms, yet the methods used to move these stones remain debated. Some researchers propose wooden rollers, while others argue for sledges lubricated with water or oil. Another theory suggests coordinated human labor using ropes and scaffolding. Testing these theories through experimental archaeology helps scientists approximate the physical abilities and engineering knowledge of these societies. Regardless of the method, the consistent precision in stone placement demonstrates mastery in planning and execution. In many regions, masonry includes interlocking stones cut so precisely that even modern tools struggle to replicate the fit. These structures survived earthquakes, storms, and erosion, highlighting the durability of ancient engineering. Some walls contain stones shaped with multiple sides that lock together like puzzle pieces. This technique distributes weight evenly and reduces the likelihood of collapse. Observing these structures inspires modern engineers seeking sustainable and disaster-resistant building methods. Water management systems continue to reveal unexpected sophistication. Some civilizations carved underground channels that transported water from mountains to settlements. These tunnels maintained steady flow while protecting water from evaporation under harsh sunlight. Others constructed reservoirs that collected seasonal rainfall. The placement of these reservoirs suggests long-term study of rainfall patterns, terrain slopes, and geological formations. Engineers designed systems that prevented contamination by separating drinking water from irrigation channels. These choices highlight a strong understanding of public health principles long before the concept was formally established. Agricultural terraces built by ancient mountain communities remain visible today. These terraces stabilized steep slopes, prevented soil erosion, and created microclimates suitable for growing specific crops. Soil composition tests show that terraces were often enhanced with organic materials to maintain fertility. The arrangement of terraces also channeled rainwater efficiently, ensuring that crops received sufficient hydration without flooding. These methods are still studied for their potential to support communities in modern high-altitude regions facing climate shifts. Evidence of early metallurgy adds another dimension to the story of lost civilizations. Smelting techniques used to extract metal from ore required controlled temperatures and specific tools. Furnaces built with clay and stone allowed airflow regulation through carefully placed vents. The resulting metals, copper, bronze, and later iron, shaped tools, weapons, ornaments, and trade goods. Analyzing these artifacts reveals how technological progress influenced social stratification. Skilled metalworkers held significant status as their craft impacted economic power and military capability. Textile fragments preserved in dry or frozen regions show complex weaving patterns. Some fabrics combine multiple threads dyed with natural pigments extracted from plants, insects, or minerals. The patterns woven into textiles sometimes reflect clan identity, spiritual symbols, or social status. The durability of these fabrics demonstrates advanced spinning and weaving techniques, suggesting that ancient societies placed strong emphasis on craftsmanship. Trade routes functioned as arteries through which goods, ideas, and languages flowed. Pathways through mountains, deserts, and coastlines connected communities separated by vast distances. Archaeologists studying traded objects such as beads, shells, metals, and ceramics trace these routes backward to their origins. This process reveals networks far older and more extensive than previously believed. In some regions, linguistic similarities between distant cultures support the theory of ancient interaction, even before writing systems developed. Writing, when it eventually emerged in certain civilizations, solidified cultural memory. Some scripts remain undeciphered, preserving their secrets behind patterns of symbols carved into stone or pressed into clay. Linguists attempt to decode these writing systems by comparing symbol frequency, direction, spacing, and relation to archaeological context. Each discovery brings researchers closer to understanding how these societies documented governance, trade, spirituality, and daily life. Music also played a role in shaping cultural identity. Instruments made from bone, wood, clay, or metal reveal the diversity of soundscapes in ancient societies. Flutes carved from bones produce haunting tones. Drums made from stretched hide echo with rhythmic patterns that may have accompanied ceremonies. Studying wear patterns on these instruments provides clues about how they were played. Music likely served spiritual, celebratory, and communicative roles, bonding communities through shared experience. All these fragments, symbols, architecture, agriculture, metallurgy, textiles, trade, writing, and music compose the intricate mosaic of lost civilizations. Each discovery expands the perspective of what ancient societies achieved with the resources and knowledge available to them. Their ingenuity reflects a universal human trait, the constant effort to understand the world, adapt to its challenges, and express meaning through art, technology, and culture. Their absence today does not diminish their contributions. Instead, it invites continued curiosity and deeper exploration.
Ancient cities submerged beneath oceans often preserve architectural clues that would have eroded on land. Stone foundations resting under gentle currents remain surprisingly intact because water shields them from wind, sand abrasion, and severe temperature changes. Marine archaeologists exploring these sites use sonar imaging and underwater drones to map the layout of buildings, pathways, and open courtyards. The silence of the underwater world adds a layer of stillness, allowing each structure to appear as though time paused the moment it sank. These ruins, layered with corals and shell-encrusted surfaces, become a blend of human craftsmanship and marine life. The fusion of biology and architecture tells a story of transformation rather than destruction. Some submerged civilizations demonstrate advanced coastal engineering. Walls built with interlocking stones indicate awareness of wave impact and storm surges. Channels carved to guide tidal flow suggest knowledge of lunar cycles and sea level rhythms. By examining these submerged features, scientists infer that these societies observed their environment carefully and made decisions based on seasonal patterns. The predictability of tides allowed them to store water, farm coastal plants, and gather marine resources efficiently. Underwater excavations reveal remains of ancient fish traps built with stone rings. These traps continue to catch fish today, proof of their functional design. Sea level rise occurring at the end of the last ice age submerged several coastal settlements slowly, allowing residents time to migrate inland. This gradual process preserved buildings that otherwise would have been dismantled or repurposed.
Sediments deposited during the flood sealed objects in place, creating snapshots of daily life. Tools, pottery, hearths, and even wooden posts remain protected beneath fine layers of silt. When these materials are recovered, researchers reconstruct the lifestyles of early coastal traders. They identify what people ate, what they traded, and which routes they traveled by analyzing residues found on pottery shards and tools. Some underwater discoveries show signs of sudden catastrophe. Broken walls, toppled pillars, and scattered artifacts suggest earthquakes or tsunamis. These natural events left patterns that scientists can read, much like forensic evidence. Distorted sediment layers indicate the direction of water displacement. Cracked stone slabs reveal the magnitude of tectonic shifts. Understanding these events provides insight into how ancient civilizations interpreted natural disasters. Their myths often contain references to giant waves, trembling earth, or angry sea spirits. These narratives may be poetic retellings of real events that reshaped coastlines. Beneath forest canopies, forgotten settlements still lie concealed. Under roots in soil, laser scanning technology known as LiDAR reveals entire cities beneath dense jungle foliage. This technology penetrates vegetation to create 3D maps of terrain, exposing hidden road networks, plazas, agricultural fields, and monumental architecture. In some regions, LiDAR reveals urban planning far more extensive than expected, challenging previous assumptions about population size and technological capability. These maps show that societies once managed vast territories with intricate irrigation systems, social hubs, and ceremonial centers. Forests preserve stone and ceramic structures differently than water or desert environments. Thick vegetation protects walls from intense sun exposure and wind erosion, yet roots weave through cracks, lifting stones slowly over centuries. This creates a scene where nature gently reclaims human-made spaces. Archaeologists clearing vegetation often discover altars, grinding stones, or storage pits beneath layers of plant matter. Each object can trade and spiritual life. Some forest civilizations carefully monitored rainfall. Their architecture includes catchment basins that directed water into underground reservoirs. Engineers shaped slopes to channel runoff, ensuring that villages stocked enough water through dry seasons. Remains of these water systems reflect long-term environmental adaptation. Botanical samples extracted from soil layers show which plants people cultivated. These findings indicate specialized knowledge of crops suited for humid conditions. Many used raised fields to prevent flooding while maintaining soil nutrients. Forest civilizations often incorporated the surrounding environment into their cultural identity. Myths describe trees as ancestral spirits or guardians. Carvings on temple walls depict vines, flowers, and animals that represent cycles of birth, growth, decay, and renewal. The environment was not simply a backdrop, it was integrated into spiritual and social life. These societies understood that forests regenerate slowly, so they used selective farming techniques rather than clearing large areas. Evidence of crop rotation and tree cultivation suggests sustainable practices that maintained ecological balance for centuries. Desert-buried kingdoms offer a different form of preservation. Dry sand acts as a natural archive. It prevents moisture from damaging organic materials like textiles, wood, and even food remnants. Some desert tombs reveal baskets containing seeds that still show identifiable species. Analyzing these seeds allow researchers to determine which plants were domesticated and which wild species were gathered. Layers of sand also record climate fluctuations. Sudden increases in sand deposition indicate periods of stronger winds or prolonged droughts. These environmental changes shaped migration patterns and settlement choices. Desert cities often built structures oriented to minimize heat exposure. Narrow streets provided shade throughout the day. Thick walls constructed from mud brick regulated indoor temperature by absorbing heat slowly and releasing at night. Archaeologists studying these cities find evidence of airflow channels that function like natural air conditioning. These features reveal an understanding of thermal dynamics achieved through observation and trial. People adapted to desert conditions not by fighting the environment, but by harmonizing with it. Some desert civilizations left petroglyphs etched into stone surfaces. These carvings depict animals that once lived in now arid regions: antelopes, giraffes, crocodiles. Their presence in ancient parts of today's deserts were once lush environments. By comparing these depictions with geological evidence, scientists map how ecosystems shifted over thousands of years. These transformations influenced where people settled and how they cultivated land. When water sources dried, communities migrated, leaving behind their artistic records as clues for future generations. In some cases, entire cities vanished beneath dunes almost overnight. Strong winds carried fine sand that filled courtyards, covered streets, and buried rooftops. This sudden burial protected artifacts from looting and damage. Excavations reveal homes left with pottery on shelves, tools on floors, and food in storage containers. These frozen moments allow researchers to understand daily routines more clearly than in sites that experienced gradual decay. Sudden abandonment raises questions about why people left. Evidence sometimes points towards climate shifts, political instability, or external threats. Each theory adds a layer to the narrative of human resilience. The Indus Valley Civilization remains one of the most harmonious urban cultures known. Their city planning followed meticulous grid patterns that prioritized accessibility and order. Streets aligned with the cardinal directions, suggesting awareness of astronomy. Drainage systems beneath the streets transported wastewater away from residential areas. These systems were engineered with slopes that maintained flow without pumps, relying entirely on gravity. Their uniformity across multiple cities indicates centralized standards or shared knowledge among communities. Indus artisans produced seals carved with animals and abstract motifs. These seals functioned as markers of identity, possibly representing family lineage, trade groups, or administrative roles. The script carved above these symbols remains undeciphered, yet its repetition suggests structured communication. Clay tablets bearing these impressions allow researchers to track economic activity. They identify trade links between the Indus Valley and regions as far as Mesopotamia. Goods such as beads, cotton textiles, and metal tools traveled across long distances, demonstrating extensive commerce. Indus society appears egalitarian compared to other ancient civilizations. Their settlements lack evidence of palaces or monumental royal tombs. Instead, buildings follow standardized dimensions, emphasizing communal harmony. Their pottery displays subtle artistry without excessive ornamentation. This simplicity suggests an emphasis on practicality and balance rather than hierarchy. The absence of weapons in many sites hints at peaceful coexistence, although the full political structure remains unclear. Their water wells, often lined with perfectly arranged bricks, still stand today. These wells demonstrate engineering precision that allowed cities to flourish even during dry seasons. By studying mineral deposits inside the wells, scientists determine which